Eliza, come on. Eliza, hurry, hurry.
She deaf?
Mute, sir. She can hear you.
You clean that lab, you get out.
This may very well be the most sensitive asset ever to be housed in this facility.
You may think that thing looks human. Stands on two legs, right? But we're created in the Lord's image. You don't think that's what the Lord looks like, do you?
This creature is intelligent, capable of language, of understanding emotions.
When he looks at me, he does not know how I am incomplete. He sees me as I am.
J'avoue, je n'ai bavé pas vous, mon amour. Avant d'avoir eu vent de vous.
The natives in the Amazon...
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lucky Dog Podcast. This is your host, Elias, and today we are here talking about another one that just came out a few months ago. Actually, I think it was toward the end of December. Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. So, The Shape of Water is essentially about a top secret research facility in the 1960s. A lonely janitor forms a unique relationship with an amphibious creature that is held in captivity. So, that's kind of, I guess that's the overall version of it, but that's kind of like the loose summary of the plot. I'd say it's honestly more or less like the first, spoiler alerts for the rest of the podcast. That's more or less the first, 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. She basically, I thought that they sold the movie on her trying to break them out and then go off and, run free into the open, into the water, No, that was pretty quick. That was probably the first 30 to 40 minutes. So, anyways, I'll break it down for you, and we'll discuss just the good, the bad, the ugly. What I thought about The Shape of Water, and just, do I really think that it deserved all the praise it got? Okay. Well, I'm gonna put something in front of me that. Okay. Sorry, we don't have the usual spot. It has a little bit of nut to do. Oh, there we go. Okay, so The Shape of Water. First impressions coming out of The Shape of Water. Well, absolutely stunning to look at, for one thing. It felt definitely like it had hints of other movies in it, somewhat of Beauty and the Beast, kind of this fish out of water feel, dating monsters and stuff. I mean, no pun intended, but the fish out of water sequence, feel of it just lingered throughout the whole thing, throughout the whole movie. So, let me just rewind a little bit with Guillermo del Toro's filmography. He's kind of a unique director. Many people know him from different types of specific genre films, kind of sci-fi, fantasy, sometimes horror, like Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth. He was a screenplay on Hellboy, and I believe he directed Hellboy as well. Yeah, he did. Directed, written, screenplay. All dear Del Toro. Pan's Labyrinth. I really enjoyed Pan's Labyrinth. Hellboy 2, that's where I hopped onto the Hellboy train. I thought it was an interesting concept. It was not what I was expecting, so that's what had me intrigued, was Hellboy 2. Which was written and directed by him. He also created the Hobbit screenplays. I think he was on the screenplays of that. He was not the director. Peter Jackson was directors of the Hobbits. I believe it was a trilogy of Hobbits, but I'm not too coerced in the trilogy or the double trilogy or whatever you want to call Lord of the Rings stuff. But anyways, back to Del Toro. Del Toro also was the director behind Pacific Rim. I don't know if many people saw that, but that was quite a spectacle. I enjoyed it. I thought it was something unique, something different, something I had never seen before. Just it's what I wished Transformers should have been, honestly, I thought this is what Transformers would have been if it wasn't directed by Michael Bay. But it looks like Del Toro was involved on the screenplay of the other two Hobbits, Desolation of Smaug and The Battle of the Five Armies. I saw a little bit of The Hobbit, and it's kind of turned me off to try to go look back at the Lord of the Rings. I've heard they're much better than the Hobbit trilogy, but I don't know. It's going to take me a little bit to get myself onto that. I don't know how many people saw Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak got very mixed reviews. I think it was a horror fantasy featuring Tom Hiddleston. Some people know that guy as Loki. And personally, I like Tom Hiddleston. Not a big fan of Loki. I didn't understand the big draw to him. I guess the big draw to Loki was he wasn't like a big CG character. He was more or less a slightly more fleshed out. But I still think I'm a little tired of him, given more recent events of Avengers and stuff like that. Don't want to talk about too much. And this is before Infinity War. And so back to Del Toro. Del Toro, needless to say, he's done a hell of a lot, and he's got a large filmography behind him, and he's kind of known for jumping on a lot of projects at once, and then maybe only doing like 2 or 3, if that. But they always intrigued me to go check them out in the theaters because they're always quite a spectacle. So going along with Del Toro and his filmography, it has to look pretty bad not to see it in theaters. And the only reason I didn't see The Shape of Water in theaters was because my theater was not playing it. The closest theater to me only plays, I guess, blockbusters that cost at least hundreds of millions to make, and I don't believe this costs terribly that much to make. I don't have the number off the top of my head. Something 25 million to make, which is pretty low. I think 25 million. Jeez, 25. No, I got under 25 million on this movie. So based on that alone, I'm really impressed by what they did just with the look alone, giving it a period piece, I believe, in the 50s or 60s. Maybe even earlier. Let's just say that. But yeah, I thought it was 60s. I kind of have this feeling that we're going through somewhat of a reverse renaissance of Mad Men, but it's going to be taken over by females, or the more feminine culture. Not necessarily just females, just the feminine culture. Not so much masculinity in our culture. Are the House of Cards, Kevin Spacey's, Bryan Cranston's, Kevin Spacey for a different reason, but Bryan Cranston, the more toxic masculinity television shows, the Don Drapers, the Rick Grimes, the I guess those type of individuals in media and culture are not being fantasized and glorified as much anymore. A lot of them share many of the same characteristics, and just it's crazy to think about that this is not too long ago, but we're already just phasing into a new culture and a new society, and a new way of thinking, and it's definitely for the better. I would say that this movie, I guess, is one more step in that direction. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, in that way, but I guess it is. It's a little bit more easy to understand that way. It's because it's showing the world through her eyes. The way she has to deal with, the men at work, the world she's surrounded by. A lot of the people in The Shape of Water, the main characters that you sympathize with, kind of feel like they don't belong in the world that they're in, or something like that. The main character is not accepted as well because she's got handicap problems due to her inability to speak, and so she sympathizes more with the fishman guy beast thing. But I don't. The thing about it is, this movie is doing a lot, and visually it's a treat, and the effects, I think, look flawless. The acting, absolutely stellar. I always have to say something about the acting. Del Toro, you've done a phenomenal job. A couple of the people that I've listened to on podcasts say that the characters are a little bit too cookie cutter and a little bit too I wouldn't say predictable, but maybe, I don't know, for some people they aren't written the way some people like them. Maybe they're not subtle, I guess, is what I would say. And so the fact that they're not subtle, you just kind of have to buy into the world, that there's a fish guy there. It's not really explained too well. It's just that it's a creature that's been found in Chile. So you just kind of have to you have to buy it, So going along with accepting things and just how the format of the movie was going, I really enjoyed the theme of music. There's a theme of music, a theme of, I would say, like there could have been a musical that popped up anytime. And since we're talking about spoilers and everything, there actually was a musical that popped up right in the middle. So it felt like that it was going to do that, but I wouldn't say that tone carried throughout the whole thing, the whole movie. Toward the beginning, it had that feeling that you could break out into spontaneous dance with Richard Jenkins and Sally Hawkins playing the two main characters. But I wouldn't say that tone went I'd say it went through the first and second, into the second and third acts. Whenever the fishman was brought out of the facility, which was kind of soon, it was like 30 to 40 minutes, I thought it did slow down. And I didn't necessarily... I guess when she was talking to him in the facility, and then kind of when they were talking out of the facility, I didn't get the communication that he was falling for her at all. I don't know why I'm looking around for confirmation, but Doug the cat agrees with me, though. He's my co-host today. The fish guy, I didn't receive enough from him. I needed more. He was too animalistic for me to believe that she would fall for him. Or I didn't feel that he was feeling anything from her, honestly, majority of the time, except for just when he was like kind of like hugging her and stuff like that, and she was always feeling her. She was always aroused in the water or something like that, and something to do with the eggs. There was a theme of like love, sex, and passion or something going on with that was intertwined with the water, and I understood that he was supposed to probably represent part of the water and vice versa and whatnot. And I don't know. It's like the visuals and the look and the feel and the ideas and the plot and the creative concepts and the racial undertones and the sexism that's shown, and it's all very enlightening, and it all generally works, I would say. But as a modern day take on Beauty and the Beast, I just needed a little bit more humanity from the Beast. Like, this guy felt way too fishy. I mean, since we've all seen it all, since most of us have seen it already, just the cat thing. He eats a cat, and then all of a sudden, grows Richard Jenkins' hair back, and I just was like, what? Just things like that. They don't balance out. It's like, oh, it's okay because we got like 6 more cats. No, this thing literally just ate a cat. This thing's hungry. It could like eat a person. I don't see like where the sexual and compassion feelings toward this fish really came from. I understand that it was kind of being beaten down and stuff like that, but I honestly think if the fish guy was treated okay, and maybe even as a regular person, just say the fish guy was in the science facility, just walking around in a lab coat and telling her what to do, just the same, I think she wouldn't have given a shit about the fish guy. So maybe we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I guess I could go on a tangent, but I want to talk about more of the good things about the movie, because I really do think this is a wonderful take on just a modern day, like I keep saying, Beauty and the Beast kind of fairy tale. And I'd say if it was any other actors playing in these roles, I'd say get this out of here. But whoever was on the casting, they nailed it. Richard Jenkins, Michael Shannon, Michael Stuhlbarg. Oh my gosh, dude. He's like my favorite and like one of my idols, and I kind of wish he'd play like a older Joker at some point. If you look at him from Boardwalk Empire and put like a little bit extra like makeup on him or something like that, give him that extra creepy smile, he could be like an older Joker. I'm telling you. And he's a fantastic actor on top of that. if he wasn't doing anything else. I've heard he's in Call Me by Your Name. I believe he was a little bit in The Post. He had he had a small role on Fargo this year. It's just been the year of the Stuhlbarg. I mean, how was it not? It's a Stuhlbarg essence. I mean, how is it not? Fantastic actor. You know, always check him out, and he's always underused, but he's used to a T on The Shape of Water on this movie. So I would recommend even on his performance. It was phenomenal. I heard that he had to learn Russian, specifically in a specific accent from a specific time, just for this role, and it's just phenomenal. He's flawless. You would never guess. Michael Shannon. Wow, this guy. Like I said, I guess we're having a Boardwalk Empire essence or reunion or something like that, because it was Michael Stuhlbarg was on there, and so is Michael Shannon. So Michael Shannon essentially plays the same character with slightly less depth from Boardwalk Empire on The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water really makes him look like a dick, and he racist, sexist, just extreme toxic masculinity to the T, just terrible human being. And the thing is, it doesn't look like his life is terrible. That's the thing. It's kind of like everything's going perfect, and nothing's too bad with it. So that it makes it even more weird that he's just so kind of crazy. I mean, not kind of crazy. He is fucking a loon. He's insane. But I would say, honestly, it's an incredible performance among anything. Some people weren't so happy with the way he was so on the nose with how, I guess, terrible he was, racist, sexist, all that. I think he was homophobic at one point. I'm not really sure, but the things about him were just despicable. Just despicable. Let's go on to other actors real quick. Richard Jenkins, phenomenal actor. Oh, I think this guy is severely underused. I don't know why one of the more standout roles I can remember him is Step Brothers, and then he was on Fun with Dick and Jane, and he's always just playing kind of a kooky guy, and I think this is one of Richard Jenkins' best performances I've ever seen. He's what I've heard being compared to as the Bryan Cranston before Bryan Cranston, according to Martin Thomas on Double Toasted podcast. But I thoroughly believe that. I mean, how do you not? Richard Jenkins on this movie feels like one of the more fleshed out individuals among any of them. Mostly because he gets to talk, and some of the best scenes he's let me think about this straight. In most of his scenes, he's talking to himself, or when he's talking to someone, they're not talking back, unless it's Sally and she's only talking back in sign language, which I'm still considering that, but I mean, it's mostly him repeating the lines that she's already said in a couple scenarios. So it's really phenomenal. So for one of the scenes, the Sally Hawkins is communicating to him, you know why they got to go save the fish guy, and it's an amazing scene, just what they're saying, the dialogue and how it's done and how it's represented. I kind of wish it wasn't so on the nose, though, because they were, for most of the movie, they were giving captions for what she was saying to him for any time she was using sign language. And then at one of the more dramatic times where she has to go save him from the lab, he's repeating everything out loud, which is the first time he's done that. Just everything she was communicating to him, and I was just like signing him, and I was like, oh, I wish they had just given a reason why he needed to speak out loud during that scene. Not just so that so that the audience would know what she was saying. I understand that it was for dramatic, presentation, I guess. But I just either have someone there that doesn't understand what she's saying and have them be the audience surrogate, or just have something for us. Just it just felt too on the nose for me. So I guess we'll just go along into things that I wasn't too crazy about. Like I said earlier, I didn't feel the connection between the main character, Sally Hawkins' character, and the fish guy. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it, and it kind of felt just more or less because he was being tortured, and that was why. I guess I don't know. I don't really. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. So, like, it's almost implied that Octavia Spencer's character knows that Sally Hawkins' character, Eliza Esposito, is in love with the amphibian man, is what he's listed as. Eliza mostly just from the start is just kind of feeding the amphibian guy, watching him get tortured a little bit, learning a little bit about it. And even before then, she's like, she feels the water is like turning her on, and it's a real big theme in the movie, just how excited she gets when she's in water. So just when she's interacting with him at the beginning, I was with it. I was going along with it, and I enjoyed their interaction. I never once really felt that much from the monster, that he loved her or something. At one point, it's explained when they're sitting in a room with Michael Shannon, I believe. Octavia Spencer says Sally Hawkins' voice box was cut when she was young or something like that. And at the beginning, Richard Jenkins says she was found next to water, I believe. So there was implications that she was going to have gills maybe throughout the movie, and it's actually shown toward the end, where there were scars on her neck. And I kind of had that feeling at one point, that those were going to have some sort of gill-like features. I didn't know if it was going to be like a scientific implication because of it, or if it was going to be a fantasy and magic, which I should have guessed. It was definitely fantasy and magic. I mean, there's no way that was Richard Jenkins' real hair. I'm just kidding. No, I loved how they did Richard Jenkins' hair. The joke with it first, when they went through the whole thing and they were like, when he was driving the van in to steal the amphibian man, he had a wig on, and when the whole thing was done, the whole heist is over, he's like, "Oh my gosh, that was so tiring." And then when most people grab their hat and throw it on the ground when they're tired, he grabbed his wig and threw it on the bathroom floor, and he was just so tired, or he just took it off. Oh my gosh, it was so funny, and they were all laughing in the bathroom after the heist. Oh, that was a good. It was a good one. Richard Jenkins' plot line was a good one. I'm sorry this podcast kind of a little bit scattered all over the place mainly because the Amphibian Man and the romantic plot line is just one of like many. There's so many intricate little stories going on beneath it and below it, honestly. No pun intended, because there was underneath the amphibian underneath Giles' apartment, which I thought was cool. The movie theater underneath that was really, really cool. So things we were originally talking about, things weren't so hot. The more I think about it, I really enjoyed it. It was like a romantic action horror and occasionally funny. It was occasionally funny, horror action comedy with a heist. I kind of wish there was more of the heist feel in it, because it was very fast moving, and I felt like that's what I wanted, a little bit more of that. But Del Toro didn't want to do too much of that type of feel, so he wanted more of a relaxing feel, and I respect that. More of a romantic feel. I would have liked just a little bit more from the Fishman, preferably. I think I kind of talked a lot about how I would have changed it. Anything specific from the actual plotting of the movie? I really enjoyed Sally Hawkins' performance. I felt for her, and I felt worried for her when Michael Shannon was prowling over her. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is, get her out of there, get the Fishman in here, and whoop his ass. Octavia Spencer, she kind of does play a cliche, like, sassy African American black woman. So some people don't like that, some people do. I wish that role wasn't as common as it was, so when it does come in, it does work, because this is one of the times it's more or less needed, and kind of a dark, not so much of a darker film, but I mean, it did need someone, given that our main character wasn't actually speaking that much, and our secondary character, which Giles, was I wouldn't say he's depressed, but he's not the most cheerful guy. It needed the Octavia Spencer to balance it out, and she was cast perfectly. So the other people that are cast in it, the Fishman, yeah, I mean, he's Doug Jones. He's the Fishman. He's doing a great job. I feel like they just made him slightly too animalistic for my taste. For me to believe that Sally Hawkins would fall for him. I mean, it kind of just felt like she just felt sympathetic for him, and I never got the feeling, that they really were in love. I know I was worried toward the end when he was losing his scales and losing all this like stuff. I was like, this is definitely not good. This is definitely not good. We need to take him back to the ocean, get him fixed up. I don't know why they were taking so long. I mean, clearly you can't just leave him in a tub for
for days on end, for weeks on end, for the rest of his life. I mean, he can barely fit in the tub, and where is she gonna touch herself and stuff like that? I mean, come on. I mean, isn't that Giles' tub anyway? I don't even know. Anyways, I did enjoy some of a lot of the visuals, all the visuals. Oh, why were the visuals on this film on a quarter of $25 million budget, but the effects look better than, let's say, a $300 million movie, which I always say Justice League, or a $225 million budget movie, which was Black Panther, or just it doesn't seem that it takes more money for it to look better. So maybe less is more these days, Hollywood, just try to utilize it. I mean, that's what the small guys have to do. That's, ball on a budget. But anyways, let's see. Anything else? Check my notes. Wow, we covered a lot. Michael Stuhlbarg. Gotta get you, Michael Stuhlbarg. There's your Michael Stuhlbarg minute. I haven't seen anything that Sally Hawkins has been in, but she was really great. Oh, she was I think she was the mother in Paddington 2. Paddington 2, by the way, surprisingly charming. And it was kind of like a silent film brought to life, so it was enjoyable. I would not expect it, which kind of gives me a little bit more hope for upcoming films in that realm. Ever since Secret Life of Pets and Coco and all these Moana, these kind of cartoon live actions slash live action animations, all these that have really Inside Out, all these types of cartoons that are like kind of advertised for children but not actually, they have more of an adult undertone, or just they've been enjoyable, so it's exciting to see them. But anyways, Sally Hawkins plays the mother in Paddington 2. But rewinding back on The Shape of Water, this adventure, this fantasy, it was a pleasure to review it. And if you like this podcast, please check out our other podcasts. We have, more recently, Game Night. We have 50 Shades Freed. We have Annihilation. We have the Florida Project coming up. We also just dropped Good Time by the Safdie brothers. We also have an assortment, a library, full library on YouTube. The links are provided all in the descriptions and everything like that. Just wanted to let everyone know that if you wanted to get the latest Lucky Dog podcast, that you can check it out on TuneIn, Overcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, all the popular ones. Just ask your Amazon Dot, if you have TuneIn, to play the latest Lucky Dog podcast, and you'll be hearing me. What's up? But thank you. I really appreciate everyone that listens to our podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Questions, comments, concerns at Lucky Dog Podcast, TheLuckyDogPodcast at gmail.com.
I don't want
Thank
an
you,
intricate,
and
beautiful
have a good
thing
one.
destroyed.
We can do nothing. I'm sorry.
Don't do this, Eliza.
What is she saying?
Don't do this.
Oh, God, it's not even human.
If I told you about her, what would I say? I wonder.